Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys reveal biggest pet peeves about men's players, from wags and crews to lack of respect. Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys recently shared their pet peeves about ATP players. They discussed how some men's players do not show respect towards WTA players, travel with large teams, and other related issues. Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys open up about pet peeves they have about ATP players. Recently, while speaking to Sam Querrey and Steve Johnson during an appearance on the Nothing Major Show podcast, Pegula and Keys were asked to share their pet peeves regarding ATP players. In response, the former world number 3 expressed her frustration with the fact that the male players travel with large entourages, which often occupy an entire gym, something that she finds bothersome. Pegula also mentioned that these ATP players often travel with tons of kids, as well as their wives, girlfriends, grandmothers, nannies, and more, which leads to overcrowding in dining areas and creates challenges for other players. The big crew, traveling with the crew, takes up the entire gym. They're really bad in the gym. The men are really bad. I'm not going to name them. I will say it tends to be a lot of doubles players. Tons of kids. I've seen the grandma, the nanny, the wife, the girlfriend, like all in dining. And I'm like, what is going on? There's just too much going on, Pegula said. Keys stated that many ATP players do not show respect toward WTA players. She shared an example of switching courts in which some male players entered the court before her time was up. Lots of them. I feel like the guys don't always have a lot of respect for us when we are on the court. So, we try to wait until it's time to switch. I've had guys kind of start coming out and I'm like, wait, what time is it? Oh, I have 3 more minutes. Okay, cool, Keys said. Keys echoed Pegula's concerns about the size of ATP player entourages and also pointed out that many ATP players do not clean up after themselves, leaving towels and other items scattered around. I also feel like the guys are traveling with a lot of people these days, like a lot. A lot of guys have wags. They have kids hang out in the gym. I find they don't pick up after themselves nearly as well. Towels everywhere, she added. On the tennis side of things, Pegula began her 2026 season at the Brisbane International. She was seeded 4th and started her campaign in the second round, having received a first-round bye. She defeated Anna Kalinske, Diana Yastremska, and Ludmila Samsonova before losing to eventual runner-up Marta Kostyuk in the semifinals. On the other hand, Keys competed at the 2026 Adelaide International, where she was defending her title after winning in 2025 by defeating Pegula in the final. This year, she was seeded 2nd and began her campaign in the second round following a first-round bye. In her opening match, the world number 9 defeated qualifier Teresa Valentova, but she was eliminated in the quarterfinals by eventual runner-up, 8th seed Victoria Mboko. Who will Pegula and Keys face at the 2026 Australian Open 1R? Looking ahead, Pegula and Keys are scheduled to compete at the 2026 Australian Open, with the singles main draw matches beginning on January 18, 2026. Pegula is seeded 6th in singles at the Melbourne Major and will start her campaign by facing Anastasia Zakharova in the first round. This match will mark the first meeting between the two players on the WTA Tour, with the winner advancing to face either Emiliana Arango or McCartney Kessler in the second round. On the other hand, Keys will enter the 2026 Australian Open as the defending champion, having won the title last year by defeating Aryna Sabalenka in the final. This year, she is seeded 9th at the Grand Slam tournament and will begin her run against Alexandra Oleinikova in the first round. Keys and Oleinikova have never faced each other on the WTA Tour, and their upcoming first-round match at the Melbourne Major will mark their first meeting. The winner of this match will move on to face either Ashlyn Kruger or Sarah Bijlek in the second round. Beyond the baseline, when Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys speak their minds. On the surface, professional tennis looks like a shared universe. Men and women train on the same courts, compete at the same tournaments, stay in the same hotels, and fly on the same endless loops around the globe. Equal prize money at the Grand Slams suggests parity. Shared locker rooms in the same stadiums suggest unity. But beneath that polished symmetry, the lived experience can feel very different, especially for women who have spent years watching how space, attention, and respect are unevenly distributed. Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys are not radicals. They are not firebrands. They are thoughtful, articulate professionals who have earned their place through consistency, resilience, and work ethic. Which is exactly why their willingness to talk about their biggest pet peeves with men's players carries weight. These are not offhand complaints. They are observations sharpened by years on tour. Their frustrations are not about talent, not about rankings, not even about money, at least not directly. Instead, they orbit around something more elusive but more corrosive: respect. The space that isn't neutral. One of the most common pet peeves Pegula and Keys have alluded to is the way space is claimed and controlled by men's players and their entourages. Tennis is not just an individual sport anymore. It is a traveling ecosystem. Coaches, physios, hitting partners, agents, friends, family members, and sometimes romantic partners all move as a unit. These groups, often referred to casually as crews or WAGs, can transform shared spaces into occupied territory. For Pegula, the irritation is not about the presence of others but about entitlement. Practice courts booked far beyond allotted times. Locker room areas overtaken by people who are not competing. Player lounges that feel less like recovery zones and more like private clubs. The unspoken rule seems to be that men's players get priority, not because they asked, but because no one told them otherwise. And when no one pushes back, entitlement hardens into habit. Madison Keys, known for her measured demeanor, has echoed similar frustrations. It is not dramatic, she suggests. It is constant. The quiet erosion of boundaries. The assumption that women will adapt, wait, or move aside. In a sport that prides itself on etiquette, these moments sting the most. When support becomes a spectacle. The rise of visible WAG culture in men's tennis has added another layer of discomfort. Pegula and Keys do not criticize partners for existing. The issue is when personal entourages become distractions, or worse, sources of influence in professional environments. There is a difference between emotional support and performative presence. Some men's players arrive with groups that dominate player boxes, overflow into training areas, or treat tournaments as social events rather than workplaces. When this energy spills over, it changes the tone of shared spaces. Women's players, by contrast, often travel with leaner teams. Their support systems tend to be quieter, more contained, more professional. That difference is not accidental. It reflects expectations. Women are still subtly encouraged to be low-maintenance, grateful, and unobtrusive. Seeing men's players take up room without consequence reinforces a double standard that Pegula and Keys find exhausting.